podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Some of the topics are addiction, fear, faith, self-compassion, relationships, codependency, emotional intelligence, and more. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations. Anger has a lot to teach us if we listen to it. We operate under a common illusion that the things that makes us angry lie outside of ourselves, that they are external to us. Something out there is in opposition to our need for safety and security. We feel a need to defend our vulnerable selves. Anger limits us. But if we have the courage to look at our anger and its causes and to learn from it, we can develop an open heart, a heart of genuine compassion. Buddhism works to illuminate the fundamental truth of our self-nature. When anger arises, it is pointing to something. Our anger is a sign of our deep-rooted beliefs about ourselves. It can help to reveal our constructed sense of self-identity, says Jules Shusen Harris. My conversation today is with Kwan Hang Sunim about anger and wisdom. Kwan Hang Sunim met Zen master Sang Sun in 1987 at the Cambridge Zen Center. He moved to Providence Zen Center in 1987 and worked there as a house master. In 1997, he went to Korea, set a 90-day retreat. Kwan Hang Sunim was ordained a novice monk, and in 2003, he received the Bhikkhu precepts. He stayed in Korea until 2012, holding various temple positions and sitting a 90-day retreat twice a year. In 2012, he moved into the Providence Zen Center and became the head Dharma teacher. He has been sitting in the winter and the summer retreats there, also as the head Dharma teacher and leading a Sunday Dharma practice program. Here is the interview with Kwan Hang Sunim. In your own words, who is Kwan Hang Sunim?
Sitting here talking to you. So that's Sunim is a monk's name. And I personally, on a personal level, I was born in Boston, in Roxbury. I'm a, Black American. But when I was young, we did a lot of reading. And I went through some difficult times. I had a lot of anger. And with that anger, after a while, I found that I couldn't really function so well. So I had a job, I had a car, and my apartment and all of that, and I was going to work and coming back, but I was slowly isolating myself because I couldn't really get a handle on my anger. So you might know that there are different types of anger.
Right.
So there's anger, of course, when people go out and start making problems for other people, but there's also the self-destructive kind of anger that also can be just as bad, but, people don't see that as much, and it doesn't harm basically the people around you. So I was more of that style. But I noticed that it was going on that way, and I just kind of dropped everything because I could see that after a while I wouldn't be able to hold my job and this and that. And I went to Korea and ordained. Now, there's a whole story behind that because I had been practicing before, so I knew kind of like what I was headed for. And I really felt that I wanted to sit down and look inside and find out what was going on and get a handle on this anger. And so I went to Korea and I did just that. I was able to get a handle on this. So I got there in 97 and ordained in 99 and then became a full monk in 2003 and stayed there to 2012. And then I come back here to Providence Zen Center where I live and practice and help other folks to practice.
That is wonderful. Since you mentioned anger, this is one of my questions. It wasn't the first question. How is anger a form of wisdom?
Oh, for sure, because it stops you and makes you look at yourself.
Right.
So we have a saying in our school, and that is a good situation is a bad situation. A bad situation is a good situation. Mm-hmm. So that the meaning of that is obvious. You know, if you have it comfortable and and everything is fine, you tend not to really look at yourself too closely.
True.
But if you're suffering and you're you want to know why. You want to know why you and this. And then that's when the big questions in life come up. What am I? What's going on? What's my connection in this world? And that kind of thing. So that's what that's about. That's how our anger, that's how all of our, difficulties are helpful. And I would say that is one of the purposes of this universe is that it wants you to find your way. Mm. And this karma, this difficulty helps you to do that. Because as soon as you start getting on the right road, then you start getting the correct feedback. You go off that road, then you get the feedback there. That's called karma, cause and effect. Mm. You can call it whatever you want and whatever tradition it is, it's right there. So that's how I see that.
Mm. So whatever's happening, it's happening for a reason. And
yeah, I see. Yeah, I see you getting a little lost with that. Is that Zen is actually quite simple, and so Zen is very much in the moment. So it's like. So yeah, I have these ideas, you might say, about reincarnation and all that stuff, but that is not Zen. Zen is looking at myself. I look inside, understand myself, and from there I help others. Okay, right. And how do you understand yourself? You understand yourself by bringing yourself into this moment, and it's very science based, right. and that everything is proven. So what happens to me, you could also do. All right. But still, it's not true for you unless you sit down and look inside and make it true for you. So Buddhism is about your experience. Zen is about your experience. Right. Okay. It's not about somebody else's experience. It's about your experience. So if you don't have that experience, it's not true for you. Okay. So reading books and all of that, that's just reading books. That's not Buddhism. So Buddhism is looking inside and attaining this intuitive side. So every human being has this spiritual self. I don't care how you look at it. Every human being has this spiritual. You can say spiritual. You can say intuitive. Right. Yeah. The way that we look at it is we call it don't know mind. Okay. So that's a kind of interesting thing. Interesting concept. It's difficult to have a concept about that, but I can show it to you a little bit easier, although it might be a little bit hard over the phone.
The interview.
Yeah. The interview. So if I was to make a noise like this, did you heard that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Very interesting about that noise is that your mind didn't say bang, and it didn't say pow, and it didn't say smack. Mm-hmm. All you did. You heard that, right?
Right.
So your intuitive self, your spiritual self is before speech and words, and that was what I just showed you was before thinking. Before you think, you heard that. That's your before thinking mind. It's not special. All human beings have that. Okay, all humans, and including if there was a cat or a dog in this room, that too would the same reaction. So all human beings have this spiritual self, right? And every culture, that has lasted any amount of years somehow relates to that spiritual self. You see,
Right.
my and this is here goes my personal opinion is that for one group to go over to another group, another country, another place, and say our spiritual way is a better way, yours is not, is stupid. I don't care how you look at that. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I'm not just talking about the main religions like Christianity and Judaism, and I'm talking about the Native American Indians. I'm talking about the South Americans. I'm talking about the Africans and the Asians and the shamans and all of those folks. They all are relating to the spiritual self in this universe.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And you can't. So I'm sorry to say that a lot of the problem is people somehow thinking that their way is the better way, and that just makes no sense whatsoever. But you can like when I do, like I said, when I hit that, make that noise, you heard that before you think.
Right.
Okay. And this before thinking mind appears, as Zen Master said, about 500 times in your daily life. And that's kind of interesting, because if I come home and my mother's in the kitchen and she's asked me to help her take the turkey out the fridge, she's a little lady, the fridge is up high, I just help her do it. I don't say to her, should I help my mother?
That's right. That's right.
You just help your mother, right?
Yeah.
You're walking, next day you're on your way to work, and on your way to work somebody falls, they have groceries, you bend over to help them pick up the groceries.
Right.
You don't say, who did you vote for? Did you vote for? None of that comes up. You just help that. That's all thinking. That's all concepts.
Yeah.
So you just help that person up.
Right.
Then you get to the train station. In the train station is crowded. The train pulls in. The door opens up. The people step off the train, and you step back. Nothing in your head said step back. You just step back.
Right.
Okay. And then what's really interesting about that is if you go to the back of the platform and watch the train as it comes in and the doors open up as the people come off, some people don't step back. Instead, the people coming off the train kind of bump into them.
Right.
Well, they're not so clear. They're not there. Maybe they're thinking about the job or this or that, but they're not really there at that moment.
Right.
So our practice is about having a clear mind.
Right.
And so this, if you come back to this intuitive self and you're in this moment, then you can judge situations and see situations a lot better. But it doesn't stop there. You have two boxes and they're fighting, right? Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali. I don't know, it's been a long time. Do you know what happens if one of those guys started thinking? If he said, if that guy throws a left, I'm going to throw it right. If he throws a right, what is going to happen to him?
So true.
He go home early. Yeah, he go home early and probably on a stretcher.
Very intuitive,
and then,
right?
Very, very intuitive. But it's not only that. So you heard of Yuna Kim. You might not have heard, but Yuna Kim was an ice skater in the Olympics, some years ago. And she won a very complicated figure skating kind of sport. And at the end of that, tears came down her face. Tears came down her face because she knew she had done so well. But when she's on that ice, she wasn't saying to herself, "Oh man, do I look good out here?" You can't do that. Yeah. The inside and the outside became one. And when I say inside and outside became one, what do I mean by that? I mean that there was no idea of I. It's only her doing what she's doing. She's only that action.
Right.
You see? So it's a very kind of interesting thing where you see athletes can be pretty comfortable in their body. Why? Because they're not always up in their head with the concepts and stuff like that. Not that concepts are a problem. Attaching to them, that's the problem.
Right.
So when the Buddha got enlightenment, he said the reason why people suffer is because they're attached to I, What is your I? It's your opinions, your ideas, your likes, your dislikes, everything, all of the stuff that you say is I, that actually don't exist outside of your noggin. It doesn't exist outside. If you have a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
And you write down everything about yourself that you can think about yourself, and then you give it to your mother or your father, somebody that you're very close to that loves you and you love them. They write all the stuff about you, compare it, and chances are it's going to be different. There's going to be differences on there. So this idea that you have about yourself exists only in your head. It don't exist anywhere.
How interesting.
So where is this I? What is this I?
Right.
That's like one of our practices is that when you sit down and you look at inside and you ask yourself sincerely, what am I? What am I? Quan Heng. Well, that's my name. It's not even the name my mother gave me. I'm a monk, right? But that's what I do. That's not, and anything actually you can think of, you'll see that that's not who you are. And eventually you get to this point where you don't know. And so this not knowing mind. I had one teacher say it in this way. He said that truly a human being doesn't know. He doesn't know why he was born. He doesn't know that where he comes from when he was born. He doesn't really know where he's going to go to when he's going to die. I mean, there are books and things that tells him, you might say, but actually you don't know. Right. When you look at it, you really don't know. You don't really have any kind of proof that tells you where you're going to go when you die and where did you come from when you were born.
Right.
So being comfortable with that not knowing, that's it. That's a kind of point. And then that not knowing turns to a kind of wonder. Okay?
Right.
So it's very interesting. You can have a doctor, you can have a computer programmer, or you can have an electrician. You can sometimes look at those folks and see that's what they are. They look just like what their profession is. Why? Because they're tied. Their knowledge limits them. They're limited by their knowledge. If you don't know, your mind is open up to all the possibilities, to the infinite possibilities.
Right.
So, and that's kind of like how we practice. We sit back and we look inside to understand ourselves. So what are we doing when we're sitting there? We're looking at our minds. Okay? So this thing where I told you I went to Korea because I was so angry, that's what I did. I went to Korea and I sat down. And it wasn't no piece of cake. I had somebody that was sitting to my left side, and I had somebody sitting to my right side, and they were annoying as hell, And I had to sit with them for 90 days.
Wow.
But when I did that, I began to look at my anger and began to realize that they didn't make me angry, but they did something. Let's say make some kind of noise. And I decided that I didn't like that noise, and I became angry. Right. But who is it that's doing the anger? Okay.
Yeah.
So you have your friend come up to you, and your friend kind of hits you on the arm, and you guys chuckle together. All right. And then you have somebody you don't like that comes to hit you on the arm, and you get mad. Well, who's doing that? Is it the person that hit you? No, that's you. So people in this world, and for me, getting a handle on anger is a really important thing.
Right.
So you can understand. So I like chocolate ice cream, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And right now downstairs I have chocolate ice cream. I have it in the fridge. I can get off this phone, go downstairs, and get my chocolate ice cream. I'm not doing that interview anymore for whatever reason. I don't like the chocolate. I want to have the chocolate ice cream. But instead, if I continue with this interview, just talking with you, the idea of the chocolate ice cream is in my mind, right? But eventually that falls away and something else appears. And then that falls away and something else appears. So in meditation, that's how your mind works. In meditation, outside of meditation, that's also how your mind works. But you need to understand that, because what is that about? You need to understand that you don't need to follow your mind everywhere as it goes. If you do that, you know what can happen?
No. I mean,
It
yeah,
can
I
take
have
you
an
to hell.
idea.
Yeah, it can
Yeah,
take you to hell.
I have an idea.
Yeah, it will take you to hell.
Oh boy.
And because it's,
Mhm.
and that's, this is all fact that you can verify, that you can look at and see that that's what goes on in your own life.
Yeah.
So it's very important to understand that your thinking is not who you are. But you need to
Mhm.
attain that by when you sit down and look inside. And also, this idea that the ice cream, you say, so what's the big deal about the ice cream?
Mhm.
Huh? What's the big deal? So I come home from work. It's really hot. I've been
Mhm.
working all day. I put in overtime. I want to come home and have
Mhm.
my chocolate ice cream and sit in front of the TV and
Mhm.
watch the 7 o'clock news. Is there a problem with that?
Yes, I don't watch TV, so I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I think that it's not such a bad idea. So I
Mhm.
come home, I'm really hot. I open the freezer,
Mhm.
and and there's no chocolate ice cream. I look
Mm.
over to my left, and I see my little brother, and he's got chocolate ice cream on his. Now, if I'm attached to my ice cream, I'm going to get really angry.
Right,
You see?
right.
But if I'm not attached to that ice cream, if
Mm.
I mean, I still like ice cream, but if I don't have it, I don't have it. Okay, so I'm not attached to that ice cream. I can look at my little brother, and then I can explain to him how he shouldn't take what's not given.
Right.
But if I'm really angry, and a lot of people do get angry,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily, do anything to the youngster. But what they do is they take that anger, especially women, take that anger and push it inside,
Oh, yeah.
and that's not very healthy.
Right. Right.
Like that's not healthy at all. And
Yeah.
so then that's kind of like how you deal with that anger. But but like I said, if you're not attached to these things, you don't have to get so angry. If you understand your mind, it's not to say that you're not going to get angry.
Mm.
But when you get angry, you understand that if you sit and you follow and you dwell on that anger, you're only going to make it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Right.
And to extrapolate on that, when somebody walks into a school and starts shooting, what do you think that person's attached to?
Right. Oh, yes. Right.
Is that anger.
Very
And
much.
all of that is that common thing. And every single person that has done that in a school, a post office, a job, is that anger.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, but you got to understand that person didn't wake up in the morning and say, gee, I think I'll go to work or I'll go to school and start shooting a couple people. That didn't happen. What happened is that it took years, literally, for him to become that angry to do that. So that meant that he dwelled on that anger, and he dwelled on that anger, built that anger up. I mean, in reaction to something, but that's what happened. Built up that kind of anger.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing is that when the Buddha sat down and he attained his true self, when he got enlightenment, he understood his mind and he understood other people's mind, and he understood how to. Then he began to work with that. So we too, if you understand our mind, you understand your mind, and you can actually work with other people with that also. So you understand that if somebody's running a marathon, okay, he's running a marathon. Towards the end of that marathon, if there's somebody that you haven't been running the marathon, but they're running up that Heartbreak Hill. Okay, and they got Heartbreak Hill is named Heartbreak Hill because just a lot of people just don't make it over that hill.
Right. For
It's
a
kind of
reason.
hot. Yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking, and that's the
Wow.
last thing before you get to that finish line.
Right.
So you run up to your friend on Heartbreak Hill and ask him his friend's phone number. Do you think that person can answer you?
Oh.
He cannot.
No.
He cannot because he cannot think. The only thing he can do is basically put his right foot in front of his left foot. But I can almost tell you that kind of person's not going to walk into a school and start shooting. Why? Because he can't hold on to his anger like that. You can't hold on to your anger and do those kinds of things.
True.
You can't hold on to that kind of anger when you're trained that way. It's not possible. So when you're huffy, this is why I'm saying athletes tend to be more relaxed in their body. They don't hang on to they can't hang on to emotions like that. Yeah, as soon as they stop exercising and stuff, they can be really emotional. But that's dwelling on that.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you understand that if you don't dwell on your emotions, they're not going to grow so much like that. And how do you then say, well, in this moment, I'm feeling upset. What can I do? Bring yourself back to this moment. And what are you doing in this moment? One of the main things is breathing. That's what the Buddha did. You breathe in and breathe out, and follow your breath, your stomach, breathing in and breathing out. You can breathe in, say, clear mind, clear mind. Breathe out, count 1. Breathe in, clear mind, clear mind. Breathe out, count 2. And if you understand anger a little bit, how it works, and I think you are, and most people out there have had nights where you were angry at somebody and you couldn't sleep because it was on your mind so much.
Right. Yeah.
All right. And so, but if you can bring yourself back to what you're doing, which is breathe in, clear mind, breathe out, don't know. To the extent you can do that, to that extent, for that moment, you can slow that anger down.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you go off and you start thinking all the tortures you could do to that person, yada, yada, yada. And then once you catch yourself again, you bring yourself back and breathe in, clear mind, breathe out. 1. And you go all the way up to 10. And when you reach 10, you start over at 1. But each time as you do that, you very gently slow the momentum of that anger down.
Right.
Okay, and when you get good at it, then you could actually do that so that you can be upset and you can go to sleep. You can go to sleep. And I'm not talking about just anger. I'm talking about any state of mind. I happen to be fairly familiar with anger. Other people are very familiar with, other states of mind, And so any state of mind, you can do that. And what's really important is that people get to the young people in your life. And try to teach them that the anger that they have is not who they are. Right. They don't have to believe in it, and they don't have to dwell on it. So you need to teach them. Like I knew somebody who was teaching school, a woman who was teaching youngsters at school, and what she would do is she would take them outside and run them around in the playground, and then bring them back in and let them join the kids. Now that person might get angry again. But while that you're running around, sometimes you let go of that anger just to do what you're doing, to run around. So you begin to try to train them not to sit there and dwell on that anger. So you don't want to take a youngster in school who's being unfriendly in the group and stick them in a corner. That's not a good thing, because you're going to sit in the corner and say, "Oh, those knuckleheads, da-da-da-da-da-da," and when it comes out of there, he's going ballistic.
Right.
But if you take him, you get him to take his mind off, keep him from dwelling on that anger, then, that's very helpful. And you teach them so that they begin to do that automatically. So you don't sit down there and say, you need to meditate. That doesn't help with youngsters,
Right. Yeah.
So for us in our practice, we do not only do we do sitting meditation, but we also do bows. So we each morning we get up and do 108 bows. When I was in Korea, they got a thing that they call Samchon Bay. Samchon Bay means 3,000 bows. So we start bowing at night, and we bow all the way until the next morning. We take 50 minutes, 10-minute break, 50 minutes, 10-minute break, kind of like that.
Is that
it's very interesting.
Is that a form of exercise?
It's an
exercise, right, for the body.
Yeah, but we call it bowing. To Tibetan style, they also bow. They bow a full length. But each morning when we get up here at the Zen Center, we do 108 bows. And while I'm in Korea, sometimes people come to me and they say, I'm thinking about changing my job, and I'm thinking about getting married. I'm thinking about staying in my job and not moving where my husband or my wife wants me to move. Some kind of big decision like that they can't make up their mind. Right. And that's just because they're just thinking. So what I tell them to do is you go to the Samchon Bay, right? And you and try that bowing thing. So you're bowing, and while you're bowing, you can't hold on to that. You can only bow. You're huffing and puffing. So you've been bowing for 50 minutes, and then you took the 10-minute break. You're 25 minutes into your next set of bows. It's hot. You've got a bunch more to do. You're really tired. At that time, you couldn't think of your friend's phone number if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so then what is that doing? That is also letting you let go of your thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, not suppress your thinking, but let it go.
Right.
And then what happens is that maybe not then, but maybe a few days later, as you're walking around, just doing your regular business, the answer to what you do will just appear. Now that's happened to everybody. That comes right from your gut.
Right.
But you can do that. You can do that in such a way that you can have yourself do that and answer your questions in life. What should I do? And I tell people that's your answer. That's not the Buddha's answer. That's not my answer. It's not your parents' answer. That's your answer that comes from your gut. And if you want to follow it, you go ahead. You feel free.
Right.
So that's and I don't give them an answer. That's all I need for them to come back and haunt me, right?
Right. Right.
So that's the whole thing about practice is looking at yourself, understanding yourself, and when you understand that, when you look inside, you can't find this I, my, and me. Does it make a whole lot of sense then to go to Wall Street and see how much money you can make, how many friends you can get on Facebook, what you can do for I? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense then.
So true.
That doesn't mean that you can't enjoy life and this and that, but what it means is then, why am I doing what I'm doing? You begin to understand that. Because there's a funny thing is that when you look inside and you can't find an I, there's a beautiful side to that. And that beautiful side is that actually we're all connected.
Yes.
And I tell people that you can actually go down to the hospital and have the blood taken out of your arms. You look at their blood and you see that you have the same properties in your blood as out there in the ocean. People are cutting trees down in the Amazon, and it's affecting us up here in the Northeast. I wonder why that is. But it goes on right now, as I understand, is every human being, and every dog, cat, and tiger, lion, and bear, and snake has plastic in their system. That plastic wasn't there 200 years ago. It wasn't there 200 years ago. But we take the plastic that we have, we put it in the ground, we put it over here. It's not us, it's not me, it's not going to touch me, but every single one of us have it in our system now.
Yeah.
And so, there are other properties in our society now from the chemicals and stuff. I won't go into detail, but all you got to do is look at the YouTube or you go to Netflix, and you'll find them in their documentaries there, documenting that these other chemicals that we have in our system, and all that does is it really shows you our connection. Okay, so you got to understand if we're making murder and mayhem in other countries and stuff like that, it's going to come over here.
Yeah.
It's not going to stay over there.
Yeah.
We are what we do, and so that's how that works.
One of the things that for me it's tough, the toughest, is to let go of joyful, exciting thoughts. So that's the hardest thing to do. How do we do that? Let go of excitement, of joy, too much joy in our thoughts, in our heads.
Sure. Yeah. It's the same as what you do for anger. And what is that? You gotta do a practice. So I'm talking about doing vows, meditating, and you got to do something consistently. Because it's a practice. It's a practice for you to get a control of your mind, of you to get control of yourself. Right. If you don't, you're just going to, basically, you're going to run. Your mind is going to run amok, is what it is.
Yeah, right. Even if it is good, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure, but it's not. It not only comes to the part about sleeping, but also if it's something that's really joyful, you're going to begin to say, well, what can I do to have that joy appear again? And then that's when attachment can get really bad, because then people start to do a lot of harmful things to others so that they can have the good situation that they have.
True.
Do you see? That's where that comes in. So that's attaching to good feeling. So good feeling is just as bad as bad feeling if you're attached to it.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense to me.
So the whole key word here that I'm talking about is attachment. Yeah. Okay, if you don't attach to it, if you have it, fine. If you don't have it, that's okay too. Okay,
right.
And that's the point. And how do you do that? You do that by coming back to this moment. And but basically, you got to practice coming back to this moment. You just can't go out there and say, "Okay, time to go back to this moment" when you're in a difficult time. It's not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to work. So they say that practicing is like putting money in the bank. So you put this money in the bank while you're practicing, and then a difficult time comes, and you use that practicing energy to help you deal with that difficult times.
Yeah.
You see, it's not going to, you're just not going to. And the other thing, that people have trauma and stuff within their psyche, and there's not a lot of us that don't, I'm sorry to say these days. And that's got to come up slowly as time goes by. And when you practice, those things are going to come up. And so sometimes it's a really good thing to do is when you're practicing and you have some strong trauma, is you need to see a therapist, and that works very well and is very compatible to practicing.
Right.
If you have, I don't know if you know that, but some people, they have so much trauma, and I've seen this myself, that they actually cannot do sitting meditation. Too much comes up too fast.
Yeah. Right.
And I know, for instance, somebody who was visiting some of the jails of where women were being interned, and they were helping them practice. And he had to give them a different kind of practice, because Zen can be a little bit too direct. So you get a practice where you kind of contemplate love and compassion and stuff like that. But sometimes if you look directly at yourself, it's too much too fast. So, and then in that case, it's good to have to see a therapist while you're also doing a practice. And sometimes what you can do is a work practice. So sometimes people like that will come here and you give them a work practice, like washing dishes, working around the temple, hanging out with people. Hanging out and being with others is an important part of that. Yeah. It's not isolating yourself. Right. You see something coming up. That's not time to isolate yourself. Okay. But when you do that, I mean, whatever is down there is trying to come up, and it's going to come up. Whether it could be this lifetime or next lifetime, but you're not going to avoid it, and there's no magic pill for it either.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
So then a way to do that is to just return to this moment when you are doing something. So then there's another saying that we have in our school. That is, when you're doing something, just do it. Yeah, okay? Right. So when you're doing something, you just do it. This I is not present at that time. Right. Okay? And that allows your intuitive self to so that you can become one in a moment. Your intuitive self then gets a chance to do what? To digest your experience. Yeah. So there's a very important thing that people don't understand. Many people don't understand is your thinking mind does not digest your experience. Yeah. Your thinking mind holds on to everything. It tries to put the good things up front and pushes the bad things in the back. But we all know the bad things do not stay back there. Right. Okay? Right. And it doesn't let go. But when you're practicing, when you let go of that thinking, that and when you let go of that thinking, whatever it is that bothers you can appear in its full glory. Yeah. And what you do is you just come back to the moment, breathing in, clear mind, breathe out. One, breathe in, clear mind, and your mind goes back. So it could last a couple of days, last a long time, but everything that appears has to disappear. Right. Everything that appears disappears. And there's like a sutra that everything that appears will disappear. And then when this appearing and disappearing disappear, that's bliss. And that's that. This is that before thinking mind. Yeah. So but let's not think that we're talking about holding on to this before thinking mind 24 hours a day. That doesn't happen. What we're talking about is returning back to this moment. Okay, but your mind is always going to wander off because the mind does what the mind does. Right. Okay, but what you want to do is you don't want the mind to control you. You are the master. Right. The mind is not you, but you can't say it's not you, and you can't say that it's you. But you don't want that. You don't want that. You don't want that to control you. Okay, you don't want your desires, your likes, and your dislikes to control your actions. Right. You don't want your you love somebody, but they're treating you not correct. okay, then you have to let that person go. You can't stay around there. So those kinds of things you got to be able to do, but you got to be able to make your center strong.
Yeah.
One of the ways to have a strong center is by being physical. Some exercise, some bowing, and sitting
True.
and returning to this moment.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of for me, just to talk to you about it all right now, for you to get it, is a bit much. But I've always found that people that are having difficulties, when they come here and practice, and they listen to the Dharma talks and they practice, after a while they begin to get a handle on what's going on.
Right.
I knew somebody that was over in Korea. He's American. He's over there teaching English. He came to me and he was really angry because you get on the buses in Korea, and the buses in Korea, they really squish you. And he was getting angry. He was getting angry.
Oh,
and
no.
he was actually talking about becoming a monk. And in fact, he had a motorcycle that he would use as much as he could. But just sometimes you just couldn't do that. But after coming a while to the Zen Center, he began to get a handle on his anger. Because it's not that the people are making him angry. It's him deciding to be angry in response to what's happening.
Yes.
But not only that, is that after he gets off the bus, is that he's still carrying that anger with him. And that's an important point. Okay, we get angry, then you got to be able to let it go.
Yes.
You can, if you don't, then you're going to make your life pretty miserable, because that anger don't exist outside of your thinking at that point.
Right. Right.
That's not in the moment.
If we are not the thinking mind, we are not thoughts. What are thoughts?
Yeah, that's a good question. What are thoughts?
Yeah, what are they?
For me, it's just something that your mind does. Yes, in relation to survival and stuff like that, but it goes on, and it has no self nature. You got to understand that. It has no self nature, meaning that the power that it has, you give it.
It would be the same question, because my next question would be, what is the mind? So it's the same thing. The mind or thoughts, they're pretty much the same, and we have no answer for these questions.
Well, if you then ask what is mind is empty. Okay? So when you ask yourself, what am I? And you get to this don't know, that is empty. And so once again, explaining it is hard, but every physical thing is marked by this emptiness. What does that mean? That means that everything comes from this emptiness. Everything's going to be turned back to this emptiness.
Right.
So you got your car sitting out front there. Beautiful car, strong as hell. You can go over there and kick it and it'll hurt your feet, right?
Yeah.
But eventually that car is going to break down and just disappear.
Yeah.
And then something else will appear. And so that's the nature of the universe, of all physical things. And so that's what you got to understand also about your thinking. But what is mind? What is mind? Don't know.
Yeah.
So you can say, for instance, what is mind? Nobody can tell you what is mind, but I can tell you this: the wall is white where I'm sitting, and the desk in front of me is brown.
Mm-hmm.
You can demonstrate mind, but you can't explain what it is.
Right. Right.
So that's a different thing. I mean, I don't want to start getting too far in differentiating things. That is how the mind is. It has no self. I don't want to explain that too much. So mind is Dharma. What is Dharma? There's so many ways that
forever, right? Yeah. With those questions.
Yeah. But I can tell you this: that there are three Zen masters. His name is Gucci, and one is I just had that somewhere. Okay, so there are three Zen masters. Usually when I get talking like that, the names kind of escape me. But one of the Zen masters would put up his finger, and his name was Gucci. And he would, anybody asked him any question about Dharma, mind, or anything, and he would raise one finger. Mm-hmm. And another one, he asked him a question, and he would shout, "Ha!" And the third one, if you ask him a question, he would hit you, boom,
oh no,
with his stick. Yeah.
Yes,
And
right.
so
I've
those,
seen that. Right.
yeah, yeah. So I'm very
uh,
interesting about those three.
so,
Very interesting thing about those three Zen masters is
thank
that
God I'm not next to you, so you don't hit me with that every time I ask you a
yeah,
question. Right. That's a good
sure.
thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
um, I think one of the hardest things to do in this life is not liking or disliking anything, just being in between, knowing the opposites and not. I call it awareness. That's the way I describe. I think it has been described that way. Being aware. You're just aware. You don't have to respond or become anything.
Yeah, so once again, that's all coming back to practicing. And what
Yeah.
practicing gets you away from this world of opposite, good and bad, up and down.
Right.
You know, you mentioned like way earlier when we was talking that you don't want to make good or bad
Yeah.
because the good and bad don't exist outside of your mind,
Right.
which is
Right.
a very interesting thing.
Yes.
So, you know, on the one hand, there are bad things happening to the United States. But when you go over to another country, the United States are doing bad things to them. And depending upon when you look at it, the good and the bad is all mixed up. So actually, the bottom line is that good and bad is made by your mind. So what does that mean? That means that when you're walking around in your day-to-day life and you start having all these opinions, after a while, these opinions begin to control you and make your life miserable.
Right.
They don't exist. You're just doing that. And so you're wondering, how can you stop doing that? And it is one of the things is by practicing and looking into yourself and then kind of returning to this absolute mind. This absolute mind is this before thinking mind. If you can addict to this before thinking mind, then when something happens, and then that just happens, you know, you don't have an opinion about it one way or the other.
Right.
To the extent that you do have an opinion about it, you also can let it go. And then if you, like right now, you in a situation where you're being really pulled around by your opinions, then you have something to do to help you with that. And what is that? That is practicing. It's bringing yourself back to the moment.
Yes.
Not to dwell on that opinion. So it's not easy, and you do have to practice. You have to do something.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So
It's not the same when we are not monks. We are not in a Zen temple. And most of us are just out in the world and the daily life, the challenges. And most of us have a hard time dealing with all our emotions and our understanding of ourselves in life.
Yeah. And there's something that you got to understand about your understanding is that your understanding cannot help you. It cannot help you. You understand things should be this way, and you understand things should be that way, but you're going another way. But what you really want to do is you want to attain this point. Attaining this point means attaining it with your before thinking mind, with your intuitive self. Not with your thinking mind. We can sit and read all kinds of books, but those books are written by somebody else, and you didn't attain it. You know, so that's just your understanding. Your understanding is not going to help you when you die.
Right. True. And so that's another question I have. It's about what is enlightenment?
I'm sitting here talking to you.
Right.
And enlightenment is a word that's got a lot of baggage with it.
Yeah.
A tremendous amount of baggage with it because it's just been going around and around. But when the Buddha got enlightened, they say he looked up at that star and his mind opened up. What we say is he attained the moment. He attained the moment. So to the extent that you could be right here and talking with me, right on the phone and talking with me, is so then if you've been practicing for a while, you might go down to the street and you're walking down the street, you're looking in the window, you see all this stuff, and you continue walking down the street, and you look at the light, it's time to cross the street, and you get across the street, and you realize that actually that's all you were doing. You wasn't thinking about yesterday, you wasn't thinking about tomorrow, you wasn't thinking about the job, you were just doing that. Okay? So that's where you're headed. Okay, so then this enlightenment. What I teach is I teach this don't know mind, this before thinking mind. To the extent that you could arrive in this moment, to that extent you're enlightened. Outside of that, I don't know what enlightenment is.
Right. If it's not here now, where is it? Right. You can't find
Yeah,
it
yeah. Where are
anywhere.
you gonna?
Yeah.
Sure, where are you gonna find it?
Yeah, not possible. We are coming to our last questions, or my last questions to you. Are there past lives?
Now, well, there's this. We have this. What we say in Zen. If you want to understand your past, look at this. What you're doing now. If you want to understand your future, also look what you're doing now. So somebody who is right now attached to, let's say something that's kind of strange, it really doesn't exist in this lifetime. So people think, "Wow, that must have come from another lifetime."
No.
Okay, so, like what is Beethoven? They say he was playing the piano when he was 7 years old.
Yeah.
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 And so, where did that come from? Where did that come from? So, but once again, is whatever it is that is in this moment? Is it something that you can use to help yourself or help others, or is it something that's causing you suffering? If it's something that's causing you suffering, still the thing to do is to once again just come right back to this moment, because there's nothing stronger than this moment. Why? Because you can't actually do anything outside of this moment.
True.
Which is kind of funny to look at. So if somebody has something that's in their past, and we all have, we're all predisposed to some things, and people don't know why that is or why that's not. Yeah. If it's causing suffering, then you need to be able to let it go. And just once again, is practice. You know, you have people that are born that want to do murder and mayhem kinds of things. And where did that come from? That's a kind of interesting point. But once again, if that person can get a hold of himself and look inside and understand what the human being is, what the human being's direction, you know, which is how can I help? Then you can work with that. So it's very important in life. One of the most important things in life is to have a direction. Yeah. If you don't have a direction, you can wind up in some really strange and unhappy places. Yeah. So you got somebody in Boston who wants to go to Florida, and he has a wheelchair. And you got somebody in Boston who has a Ferrari. Okay? The person in a Ferrari doesn't know where he's going, has no direction. He's got money and he's got a fast car, and then and he takes off. Probably not going to see him in Florida anytime soon. All right? But the person with the wheelchair will eventually get to Florida. He has a direction.
Right.
But that person in the Ferrari, I'm not saying that he'll always return to a bad place, but it's so easy to get lost that way. Yeah. But if you have a direction, you don't have to always check yourself. What am I doing? Because your direction guides you.
True. So true. What about those who won't have or don't have the opportunity to learn about themselves in this lifetime? How would you explain that? For example, psychopaths, they're born that way, so they can't understand themselves, their thoughts. They keep doing, like causing suffering to themselves and others all the time without awareness, any awareness.
Yeah. So, it's interesting is that these days, Buddhists and just like a lot of the other religions are getting more and more out to helping society. So a person who's is a psychopath or something like that, like starting today, in fact, I'm going to take this Path of Freedom course, a course that helps me when I go to a prison, when I sit with the inmates there. Right. So what it means is that as human beings, our job is to help others. When we see that we're all connected, it only makes sense to help others. And I'm not just talking about other people. I'm talking about the trees, the animals, the environment, the water, the air. You can help all of that. Yeah. All of that, believe it or not, we're bondage free. Yeah. So when you talk about like a psychopath, is it some kind of a technical thing that I know? No, I think we should help as a society work towards helping those people along with everybody else. along with the homeless, the sick, the poor, the uninsured. All of that is what we should be doing. And a psychopath is also in that mix of how can we help.
Yes, right. My question really still is about why are they born in such a condition that they can not know themselves and find freedom in this lifetime?
I don't know.
The mystery of life. That's not.
I could tell you honestly that I don't know, but I do know that type of person appears. And you see it all the time.
Yeah.
But once again, it's how can I help? And if you want to get into, if you want to get into reincarnation and all of that stuff, it has a lot of answers right there. But those answers always brings you back to then, even if that's the case, it's still, what can I do to help this situation? What can I do to help that kind of person?
That's true.
Is it because there were chemicals in the water? That somehow affected the brain. It's happened a lot here. Look at what's going on in Flint. They say that there was a way of measuring the test, and the people was up to like a 40, and it dropped down to about 10 because of the lead poisoning of the water there.
Right. Wow.
So then that's what we as a society and as a group can work on. And as a society and as a group, because they're all connected, I feel that a psychopath coming into that group, that's a caring, a working group, is somehow that's going to have an effect.
Right.
As opposed to this cutthroat society where if you're a psychopath, that's an edge. That's an edge. And look at the wars and stuff that's going on. A lot of that is not generated by people that are angry, but it's more generated by people who want money, want to earn money out of the equipment and everything else.
True. So true. What is compassion?
How can I help?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Right.
So in our practice, it's really not so much explanation, but doing.
Right.
How can I help?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I just say, somebody's hungry, give them food. You're tired, rest. That's all it is. Very simple.
I like that. What are 3 things about life or about the mind that you know for sure?
I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to die one day, and so are you.
Right.
And that this connection that we all have is an opportunity. It's a real opportunity to explore. That actually goes beyond life and death. So, that's what I feel for sure about things.
Right. Thank you so much, Sunim, for this conversation.
Okay, good. It's something that will help you in your life. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah.
Because there's just some basic things that are all for human beings. And one of the basic things is being able to look at your mind and dealing with it. And we have the tools to show people how to do that.
Yes. Yeah. The practice of meditation, I know. And where can we find more information about you? What do you do? Services, projects?
Oh, you can find more information by going to providencezen.org, and that's the temple that I stay at, providencezen.org. But also, if you're on Facebook and you put Providence Zen Center in the search box, our Facebook account would come up. And that's actually part of my job. I post on there each week just about.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you so much again, Sumi. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to do this.
Yes, thank you again. Bye for now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. To learn more about Wan Heng Sunim, please visit the website providencezen.org. To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. I want to thank the Patreon members, Lawrence McGrath, Mark Basden, and Terry Clayton. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.